makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
If I had started my channel a couple of years ago, probably 80-90% of my content would be directed against the intellectual dark web and all these fringes of the alt-right or alt-light. Because back in the day, well, they were, I guess, influential to a lot of people. Now their star doesn't shine as much as it did. Some people like Sam Harris have claimed that they are no longer part of this group at all. Uh, Most of them are now either openly, reactionary right wingers or anti-vaxxers. You name it. Even Jordan Peterson, which I think at one point was definitely the biggest celebrity in that group, is also really kind of fading away. Uh, anyway, those are like the first order celebrities of the intellectual dark web, but there was also like a second order, the B team, and they would occasionally be found in conversation with the main celebrities. So they were also out there. A lot of them were also professors, academics, writers, whatever. And one of them is a guy called Gad Saad. He is a professor who teaches at Montreal. I forget where. Apparently an evolutionary behavioral scientist. And he is, just as annoying as all the other ones, in terms of what he believes in terms of his hatred of everything woke, anti-SJW, anti-regressive left, etc. He was exactly like Dave Rubin, exactly like Jordan Peterson. And yeah, that's him. His latest book is called The Parasitic Mind. And it has this blurb from Jordan Peterson. Read this book, strengthen your resolve, and help us all return to reason. Yeah. Anyway, he got mad owned. Like, mad owned on Twitter yesterday for really the stupidest anecdote that he could possibly give, which is probably fake, but let's read it and see what the problem is with it. My wife walked up to the server at our local cafe. The person was possibly transgender. She wanted to engage the individual, but was frozen in fear that she might use a pronoun that might offend. Therein lies the problem with this language policing. It takes perfectly natural social situations, and in the quest to not offend an extraordinarily small minority, who of course deserve to live fully dignified lives like anyone else. That's the I'm not a transphobe disclaimer. Everyone is walking on eggshell. It's eggshells. He was probably, autocorrect error. Fighting for a world free of bigotry does not imply that we must suppress perfectly natural categorization mechanisms that are built into our brains and our languages. I can be free of bigotry without being compelled to celebrate your unique personhood. I'm getting closer to putting everything behind a subscription wall. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But anyway, can you see what the problem with this is? It should be really obvious. When you're speaking to a transgender person or a non-binary person who might use different pronouns than he, him, she, her, and I would say that this is mostly an issue with non-binary people. The majority of transgender people would like to be referred in the gender that they have transitioned into. That's the majority of people that I've encountered. Anyway, you never use those pronouns when you're talking to them because there's never any need to. Because the only pronoun that you use when you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone is usually just you, and you is gender neutral. In what, like, if you're talking to someone, when would you require to say she or him or they? Never. It just doesn't come up. It's not a problem. You are at near zero risk of misgendering a transgender or a non-binary person. Like near zero risk of misgendering them if you're talking to them one-on-one. You don't have to worry about that. You seriously don't. So clearly, people noticed the problem with this complaint. And well, look at the ratio on this tweet. 9,550 versus 4,988. So almost twice as many people have voted, and you can probably assume that most of these are negative comments, because indeed they are. Let's look at some of them. Maybe your wife should change her greeting from "you there, female" to a more traditional "hi." Yeah. Absurd, unrealistic story, since you don't need to know their pronouns to place an order. However, if you did, singular "they" is gender neutral and works just fine. If you weren't so busy sneering at language policing, you might have picked that one up. Of course. Things you can safely say to your gender ambiguous server. Hello, how are you? Can I have a coffee with cream and sugar? The leaves are beautiful out there. Those are great shoes. Things not to say. What up, they friend? Can I see your genitals? Yeah. David Packman chipped in. I can't think of situations where I need to use a pronoun when speaking to a person. It's usually when speaking about a person to someone else. What would be an example sentence? Anyway, he realized that he fucked up. This was his big anti-language policing gotcha, and he got owned. And so he replies, she wanted to say to the server's colleague, he'll get the hang of it, new server, but hesitated because of he'll. Can you also see what the problem with this is as well? Because there happens to be a gender neutral pronoun that you can use in this exact situation, which is they'll get the hang of it. If you say they'll get the hang of it, it doesn't matter if it's a he or a she or a they. It works either way. So this is, aside from the fact that this anecdote really, really sounds like it's fake, it's just so stupid, because neither his original comment nor his kind of copium-fueled reply makes sense. It's just a complete misunderstanding of how language works. And this is a guy complaining about language. So this is crazy. Also, I think he is lying about that. Even if this part is true, the second part has to be a lie, because here he's clearly saying she wanted to engage the individual. But in the reply, he's not talking about the wife engaging the individual. The wife is engaging the colleague of the individual. So this is just, let's be honest, bullshit. Bullshit. Now, here's the thing. I suspect most transgender people who might use they, them pronouns, which I would suspect that is a minority, because at least the majority of transgender people that I've encountered like to use the pronouns of the gender that they've transitioned to, the gender that they identify as. It's mostly an issue with non-binary people. Now, if you misgender a non-binary person and the misgendering is clearly accidental, they'll simply point it out. Why would you seek conflict and not give the benefit of the doubt that someone their initial misgendering was done accidentally? And we can tell when it's done accidentally. It's really easy to feel when someone didn't use the right words to refer to someone, and when it's deliberate. And maybe there is a tiny subset of non-binary people who are assholes and who will raise a stink if you even accidentally misgender them. I'm sure, there are assholes in every community. Okay, every type of people, every type of person can be an asshole. That's a fact. But the majority aren't. The majority, I don't think, will make it an issue unless they feel that you are deliberately misgendering them. So this also tells you about the fact that he has not been around enough of these people to realize what their attitude is to accidental misgendering. And that is incredibly problematic. And that's when you realize that he's full of shit. And this reminds me a lot of the situation when Jordan Peterson became famous. Remember, Jordan Peterson became famous because he complained about a law in Canada. I think it was called the C-16 law or something like that, which added transgender people to the list of protected minorities against hate speech. So his argument was that now he might accidentally misgender someone, and he would go to jail. And actual lawyers made it clear that that was not the case. There had to be some evidence that the misgendering was deliberate, because then it would be seen as hate speech. But accidental misgendering is, it might happen. And if it's accidental, so be it. It's when it's done deliberately that is a problem. And I think Jordan Peterson at the time was saying, like, no, I'm not going to use those pronouns. So he's being an asshole. People can tell when you're being an asshole. So, yeah, this is, to quote his last name, sad, very sad. And it's just really disgraceful that people like him just make up these anecdotes to create a conflict that doesn't exist, to make it seem like that every single transgender or non-binary person is incredibly like super defensive about everything and will accuse you of the most horrible things. But then the fact that you're lying about this and creating these imaginary conflicts proves that really you kind of are transphobic. You kind of are. Everything in his record, opposing every single aspect of non-reactionary views against the left, suggests that this guy does hold those views. So, yeah, I'm glad he got owned. Seriously glad he got owned. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. And on that note, if you like this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. And I will see you next time.